I had processed 41 human soldiers that morning, and not one of them had been interesting. That was the nature of rotational duty at Outpost Varen, a joint human Valithi garrison in the dust belt of the Orath system, where nothing happened and everyone pretended it didn't matter. My assignment was medical intake. Standard blood panels, neural baselines, allergen flags. The humans sat in my chair, rolled up their sleeves, and answered the same questions I had asked 400 times before. I was Dr. Valara Sorin, Lieutenant Commander, Valithi Medical Corps, and I had not learned a single new thing about human biology in 6 rotations. Sergeant Cole Mercer was number 42. He walked in without ceremony. Mid-30s, maybe older. The kind of face where weather and work had done the aging instead of years. Cropped brown hair. A thin white scar running from his left ear to the edge of his jaw, old enough to have settled into the skin like it belonged. His hands, when he set them on the armrests, were scarred across the knuckles. Working scars. A combat engineer's hands. He sat down, rolled up his sleeve without being asked, and looked at the far wall with the patience of a man accustomed to waiting for things that were not up to him. "Name and rank," I said, though I had his file open on the display in front of me. "Mercer Cole, Sergeant, 44th Engineering Support. History of respiratory illness?" "No, ma'am." I drew his blood. 4 vials, 2 for the baseline scan, 2 archived. He did not flinch. Most humans did not. But some made a show of looking away or filling the silence with talk. Mercer just watched the vials fill with quiet, practical attention, the way a man watches an engine turn over. I fed the samples into the analyzer and turned back to my notes. 3 minutes. Height, weight, resting pulse, all within standard parameters. Unremarkable. The analyzer chimed. Not the standard tone, the 3-note alert that flagged an anomaly. I glanced at the readout expecting an allergen marker or a mild pathogen trace, something routine I could note and clear with a keystroke. The screen showed a genetic concordance I had never seen in human blood. I read it once. Then I read it again, slowly, because the words on the display did not belong in the same sentence. Concordance detected. Valithi genome sequence, V Royal-9. Cross-reference. Empress line, House of Sorel. Match confidence, 99.71%. House of Sorel. The House of Sorel had been extinct for 3 generations. The last empress, Ithara Sorel, had died in the burning of Valith, the day the Keth Dominion cracked our homeworld's crust and boiled the capital seas. Every Valithi child learned her name before they learned their own alphabet. Her portrait hung in the Hall of Ashes on New Valith, rendered in pale silver ink on black stone, dark glass eyes, threaded silver hair, the ceremonial circlet of the sorrel line resting on her brow like a sentence that had never been finished. She was a legend, a ghost, a name we spoke at funerals when we needed to say that something beautiful had once existed, and that its absence was the shape of our grief. Her genetic markers had no business appearing in the blood of a human sergeant from the 44th Engineering Support. I reran the scan. Same result, same confidence. The V Royal-9 sequence, the unique mitochondrial signature of the Sorel Empress bloodline, encoded in markers our geneticists believed could not survive outside Valithi cellular architecture, was threaded through Sergeant Cole Mercer's DNA like a vein of copper through granite. My hands were trembling. I set the scanner down carefully and pressed my palms flat against the counter. The cold of the surface steadied me. I counted my breaths the way I had been trained to count them in surgical theater. 4 in, 4 out, the body remembering discipline when the mind has forgotten it. "Everything all right, ma'am?" I looked at him. He was watching me with steady brown eyes. Not alarmed, not impatient, just attentive. The way a man watches a medic who has paused mid-procedure. Something is off, but he trusts the hands. "Fine," I said, verifying a result. I pulled up the Valithi Heritage Archive, the encrypted database on New Valith that tracked every known descendant of the old bloodlines. I had never accessed it during a routine intake. The authorization prompt asked me to confirm my clearance. I typed, "Anomalous concordance. Sorel line markers detected in non-Valithi subject." I fed Mercer's profile into the matching engine and waited. 11 seconds. I know, because I counted them the way you count the seconds between lightning and thunder. Not for the science of it, but because the counting is the only thing that keeps you from flinching at the sound. Match confirmed. Subject carries Sorel Empress line markers. At 99.71% concordance. Lineage pathway, unknown. No Veilithi ancestry detected. Classification, convergent emergence. Convergent emergence. The geneticist term for when a bloodline pattern appeared spontaneously in an unrelated species. Theorized for decades. Documented 0 times. Until now. Sergeant, I said. My voice was level. The rest of me was not. How much do you know about Veilithi history? He considered the question with the same unhurried seriousness he had given the blood draw. Not much, ma'am. I know your homeworld was lost. I know your people resettled. I know the garrison commander speaks 3 languages and does not tolerate excuses. A faint, dry delivery. Not a joke, just the way he spoke. Grounded, practical, entirely unaware that his blood carried the echo of the most revered lineage my people had ever mourned. Your scan results show something I cannot explain, I said. I chose my words the way I had been trained to deliver a diagnosis. Clean, direct, without softening. Your DNA contains genetic markers that correspond to a Veilithi royal bloodline, the Sorel Empress line. It has been considered extinct for 3 generations. He looked at me for a long time. Not with shock, not with the quick hunger I had seen cross the faces of human diplomats when they sensed an advantage. Not with disbelief either, something quieter. The expression of a man who has just been told the weather will change and is deciding whether to bring a jacket. I fix water purifiers, ma'am, he said. I build field latrines and patch conduit housing. There is nothing royal about any of that. The markers are not a matter of occupation, Sergeant. They are a matter of what your blood carries. And you ran the scan how many times? 3. He looked at his hands. The scarred, blunt-fingered hands of a man who worked with wrenches and sealant paste, not scepters and circlets. Then he folded them in his lap and looked back at me. What does it mean, he said, for your people? I had processed 41 human soldiers that morning. I had worked on joint postings with humans for 11 years. In all of that time, not one had ever responded to extraordinary personal news by asking what it meant for someone else first. I thought of Ithara Sorel, the portrait in the Hall of Ashes, the dark glass eyes and the unfinished sentence of the circlet on her brow. I had stood before that portrait as a girl of 9 and tried to imagine what it would feel like to stand in the presence of that bloodline, to feel the old recognition rise in my chest, the awareness that something believed lost had walked back into the room and sat down. It felt like this. Not a crown placed, not a court kneeling, not a hall trembling with revelation. It felt like a scarred man in a medical chair, sleeves still rolled, asking what his blood meant for my people's grief, before he asked what it meant for himself. It means that something we believed was gone has survived, I said, in you. We do not know how. The Remembrance Council will want to speak with you. It will change things, for my people, significantly. He nodded. A single, measured incline of his head. Then he straightened the cuff of his sleeve with the same quiet precision he had carried through every moment since he walked in, and he met my eyes. Then I will talk to them, he said, whatever they need. I logged the result. The system prompted me for a classification tag, and I typed the words that would reach New Veilith within the hour, and would not leave it the same. Convergent emergence. Sorel line confirmed. Human subject. SGT. Cole Mercer, 44th Engineering Support. Before he reached the door, I said his name. Not Sergeant. Not the clinical designation the intake system had stamped across his file when he walked in 41 soldiers ago. I said it the way the Remembrance Council taught us to say the names of those we recognized. With weight, with intention, as though the syllables themselves were an act of witness. He stopped at the threshold and turned back. Thank you, I said, for asking what it meant. He held my gaze, steady, unhurried, the same composed attention he had given the needle, the scan, and the news that should have rewritten his understanding of himself, and had not shifted his posture by a single degree. Then he nodded once and walked out into the corridor, and the door closed behind him, and I was alone with the hum of the analyzer and the readout still glowing on my screen. The word confirmed pulsed in the dim light of the medical bay. I pressed my palm flat against the display, just for a moment, just to feel the warmth of the machine that had found, in the blood of a quiet man who fixed water purifiers and built latrines, the heartbeat of an empress my people had been mourning for 90 years. Then I opened the next file and called for number 43.